President Trump tells the nation's farmers he's on their side. Ahead on Grow, what the president had to say about the Farm Bill. And we'll hear from Senator Deb Fischer, now serving on the Senate Ag Committee. Plus tax relief in Nebraska, the governor shares his plan. And we talk precision irrigation at the Ord Farm Show. It's time to grow. President Trump addresses the nation's farmers, pledging to roll back red tape and restore prosperity. Here's more from our sister station in Nashville.
I'm thrilled to be back in the amazing state of Tennessee.
President Trump was among friends and firing on all cylinders during his speech in Nashville this afternoon. He talked about how his tax reform package will save working families about $2,000 a year. But he believes the bigger story is what it does for small businesses.
All American businesses, including American farmers, will be able to deduct 100% of the cost of new equipment in the year you make the investment.
That received a rousing applause, but not as big as killing the so-called death tax, making it easier for farm and ranch families to pass their assets on to the next generation.
That was a tough one to get. That was a tough one.
Mr. Trump says he's negotiating with Mexico and Canada now to rewrite the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, to make our products more competitive. And flanked by members of Tennessee's congressional delegation, the president signed 2 executive orders to help expand high-speed internet service to rural areas.
Look, I've traveled this state from Mountain City all the way over to Memphis, and I'm hearing this all the way across the state in our rural areas. Please do something to get us broadband.
Now to a couple of the specific points the president made. He reiterated he's working to get better trade deals and mentioned NAFTA, and got a standing ovation for efforts on the estate tax, the so-called death tax, plus a new deduction allowing farmers to deduct up to 100% of the cost of equipment in the year farmers make the investment. And then he addressed the work ahead. The president's previous budget proposal called for deep cuts to crop insurance. And a Nebraskan is back in position to have a stronger voice on the next farm bill. Senator Deb Fischer is now on the Senate Ag Committee. For 48 straight years, a Nebraska senator served in that role, but that streak was broken last year when Senator Ben Sasse left the panel. Fischer has been outspoken on farm and rural issues. Last spring, she invited Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue to her family ranch in the Sandhills, and she recently discussed trade with President Trump.
My message to the president was how important agriculture is to the state of Nebraska and how important a good trade agreement is to agriculture. So I have been very vocal on that with the president.
Senator Fischer was part of a Farm Bill forum at the State Fair. She says preserving funding for crop insurance is a high priority. Democratic Senate candidate Jane Raybould sees things a little differently. She said, quote, "The people of Nebraska are smarter than the Washington game Mitch McConnell and Deb Fischer are attempting to play. Nebraskans know, our farmers and ranchers know bull when they see it, and the voters will treat this as such," end quote. While Nebraska farm groups nearly universally applaud the move. Among those, Nebraska Farm Bureau president saying, quote, "As a rancher and as an individual who has represented the interests of agriculture at all different levels of public service, we could not be more pleased to have her providing leadership and direction to the Senate Agriculture Committee as they begin the task of developing the 2018 Farm Bill," end quote. And we'll hear more from Senator Fischer on the Farm Bill later in the show. And all of that leads to this week's poll question on the subject of the Farm Bill and what you think should be prioritized. Is it preserving crop insurance and the safety net, or reforming SNAP and food stamps? Or maybe you want more emphasis on conservation, or, like the president has said, is the biggest thing cutting the budget? Follow Grow on Twitter to cast your vote. Governor Pete Ricketts calls for tax relief and budget cuts. As he says, the state of the state is strong.
And we have got a great story to tell here in Nebraska.
Shaking hands from Lincoln to Scottsbluff, Governor Pete Ricketts highlights an agenda of budget cuts and tax relief.
It's important Now, we deliver tax relief in this legislative session.
Homeowners and farmers would get 10% of their property tax bill back as a credit on their income taxes.
It doesn't impact what any of the counties or any of the local folks are doing. Now, it's not a complete solution by itself. There's other things we need to do along those lines, but this is a way that we can deliver over 10 years, $4 billion in property tax relief to hardworking Nebraska families.
One farmer told the governor it's not enough.
When you say, or the governor says, we're going to dedicate X amount of millions, it sounds like a big number. It's not.
Mike Dobish says some farmers can't survive another year of low commodity prices, and high taxes are too much.
I myself am paying over $40,000. So what is meaningful tax relief? And that's just one farmer.
The governor says his plan targets credits to Nebraska landowners
And not absentee landowners.
On the budget, the shortfall is around $200 million over a 2-year period. The governor proposes across-the-board budget cuts. The governor says his budget would protect schools, prisons, and child welfare, while creating a culture that encourages economic growth.
To work at the speed of business to be able to help companies make those investments here.
Certainly challenging times in agriculture, and many farmers hoping property taxes would be lowered. NTV's Rashida Kava caught up with some Adams County Farm Bureau members and has the story.
Well, over the last several years, it's been greatly affecting us, but it's become our #1 expense.
Property taxes, an undeniable expense, and for corn and soybean farmer Doug Sadoff, he says rates have gotten out of hand.
It hurts bad. I mean, every farm's different, but we're paying anywhere from about $40 to almost $90 an acre.
According to the Farm Bureau, property taxes have risen 175% in the last 10 years. You see, property taxes fund public schools and other community necessities, and farmers are responsible for a big portion of that.
Farmers are in a kind of a serious situation with the farm economy and the commodity prices being the way they are. We need some help somewhere, and we need land to farm. You got to have that land to keep farming, and it's our business. It's what we're good at. So. We just need some help out in that with our property taxes.
That's why District 33 Senator Steve Holleran is pushing a petition bill, also known as
the 50-50 bill,
which is supposed to give landowners some tax relief from public school funding by giving a 50% income tax credit in return.
For 40 some odd years, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of promises, and no action. And so we felt that this was a way to do it and put it in statute by having the population express a desire to do that.
And property tax is the subject of our most recent poll question. We asked, what approach do you think would be most effective to provide property tax relief in Nebraska, especially for ag land? Looks like the winner here. Many of you would like to see an income potential-based approach to determining the value of agricultural land. Next, many of you would like more state funding to deal with that side of the equation. Many of you say a different approach would be good, and just a couple of people say things are just fine the way they are now. Still to come, we talk precision irrigation with crop metrics. Up next, more from our visit with Senator Deb Fischer.